My name is Linda Chekanow, and before I begin my comments, I have a question about a point of procedure. I have two ways that I can approach the comments that I have this morning. And before I start, I would like to know if I ask a question of the commissioners or of a commissioner, will it be answered? Can I have an answer during public comment, or is this just a statement of either a satisfaction or a dissatisfaction or whatever is called for?
This is a public comment section.
Okay, but it was my understanding that when the new procedures were enacted, that it was permissible that if a commissioner were addressed, that he could answer a question that were directed to him. I would like to know if it is possible to receive an answer.
If you would like to leave a question with us, then we'll have an answer for you.
Okay, and that is my answer in and of itself. We'll go this way. I have a few words to say about the situation with New River Service Authority and the voting to give away substantial assets of New River Behavioral Health and our commissioner's part in that questionably legal vote. It is my understanding, just so we're clear, I want to make sure that I have this right, that the following things are true. That the New River Service Authority Board, of which Commissioner Cox is our representing member, voted to give away the motor vehicle assets to a for-profit private company. Number two, New River Service Authority was bankrupt even before the New River Service Authority Board voted to give away those assets, thereby increasing its unsecured indebtedness. Number three, Allegheny County and 4 other counties are legally responsible for the unsecured indebtedness of the NRSA. Number 4, the Allegheny County Commissioners, of which Mr. Cox is also a member, will be obliged to use our taxpayer dollars to pay this unsecured indebtedness, including the increase in indebtedness that resulted from the giving away of the motor vehicle pool to a company that had funds or access to funds to arrange for its own vehicles. Number 5, Mr. Cox, by virtue of his veto of the original motion to auction the vehicles made by Commissioner Miller and the subsequent seconding of a motion to hand the cars over to Daymark, will have twice taken what appear to be actions to increase the cost to the taxpayers of Allegheny County as a result of having given these cars to a private for-profit company. Now, according to an article that I read in the Wilkes Journal Patriot, Commissioner Miller, who represents Watauga County, said that Daymark went in and chose the 68 best of these 114 vehicles and basically left the junk behind. And I quote, "We're giving the cream of the crop and getting the junk. We're giving away assets that we need to pay hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in debt that this board has. We're giving them to an LME, which is Smoky Mountain Center, that is sitting here with a $16 million plus fund balance, and we're left with nothing. I understand they'll have better services because they'll have vehicles, but that's no longer our concern. Our concern is paying this agency's, New River's, debt." Am I missing something? Did something happen that I did not read or was not aware of? Because I would like to know. If the New River Transitional Authority Board had not caved in to Daymark's completely unrealistic claim that they would not be able to deliver services unless they had the cars, would Daymark have then pulled out of this arrangement that stands to net their company hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars? I don't believe they would have. I think that Mr. West's threat was an empty one at best. He was wrangling for what he could get, and he got it. They would have simply had to provide their employees with alternate vehicles out of their own pocket or developed a compensation plan for their employees to reimburse them for using their own personal vehicles, again, out of their own pocket. Instead, what it appears has happened is that as a result of politicians who acted in the interests of Daymark, this private business, at the expense of their constituents, the cost of these vehicles is now going to come out of the taxpayers' pockets. It looks to me, if I can borrow a phrase from a friend of mine, that this is nothing more than a case of big government written small and acting in favor of big business instead of the taxpayers who are now going to carry this debt on their backs. According to the Wilkes Journal Patriot, Commissioner Cox said, and I quote you, sir, in the paper, "People in Allegheny told him they believed the NRSA board was standing in the way of Daymark's delivery of services by not letting it use the vehicles." I would very much like to know who those people are, Mr. Cox, and I know a lot of other folks who would too. I spoke to more than 30 people this weekend just over the course of my regular actions, some in person and some in an online Allegheny County forum, and not one of them felt that the right thing had been done. Now, maybe this is a lack of information on our parts, or maybe it is a lack of transparency in getting the details of what happened at New River and what is still happening to be clear to the public. The fact is, sadly, that the most popular opinions were expressed that, A, you should provide a list of the Allegheny voting taxpayers who thought you should give the cars away. B, that people from Allegheny County who have delivered goods and services to New River Behavioral Health and are still owed money for them are outraged that the stockholders of Daymark will be reaping the money that the folks here in the county actually earned. C, that you betrayed the interests of the constituents who voted for you and trusted you to look out for their interests. And the consensus was, by the way, that Mr. Richardson, who sits on the boards of so many organizations that it's hard to count them, can no longer be counted on to represent the interests of Allegheny County as well. So, I'm waiting here, Mr. Cox. I'd like to know what folks in the county here advocated you dumping more hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt onto their backs, and how you propose that the county is going to pay for it. I would not be at all surprised to find that there is going to be a property tax increase in the offing in the coming year, because Allegheny County doesn't have the fund balance of Smoky Mountain or Daymark. In fact, the decision that the New River Service Authority made to give the cars away has now been called into question legally, as the interlocal agreement in question specifies that the NRSA was not supposed to determine how the assets would be disposed, but rather they were supposed to go back to the counties to determine how those assets would be disposed of. But you didn't go back to the counties. In my opinion, and in the opinion of many people, the New River Service Authority made a rogue decision. I would like to now know how the county intends to pay for it.
Other individuals?